Stocks hanging on here. NASDAQ positive, Russell's down. Bit of a swingy day, but nothing swings as hard as Bitcoin, at least finally. Let's bring in Scott and talk about it. CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, Mr. Bauer, joins us here this afternoon. So it took a little bit, but BTC woke up. Scott, is this a catch-up game or potential leadership emerging?
You know, I'm not so sure that the bulls should really chalk this one up quite yet over the fight for 30,000 yet, Oliver. Not really seeing what catalyst was out there for the move, you know, in the last day or so, getting us to a high of 32.5 today. It certainly is not an interest rate play. If you look at how, you know, Bitcoin has moved with rates are back on the rise again today. So I know Bitcoin's off at high of the day, but, you know, temporary, yeah, I guess, you know, there's been so many losses recently. The bulls want to chalk up a win, but I'd still be pretty cautious.
Okay. What would change that? What are you looking for here? Levels, news flow, or has the last month of some of the chaos in this sector just, you know, put it in the penalty box for the time being? How are you thinking about it?
Yeah, it actually took a major penalty if this was the NHL. Yeah, there's a couple things. I think you have to look at the 35 to 36,000 area from a technical standpoint. I think that's really the next area that bulls are going to be concerned about. But more from a fundamental standpoint, you know, we have just seen, you know, we talk about this ad nauseum. We've seen for the last 9 months, last 12 months, how this has traded lockstep basically with the NASDAQ. So my concern, Oliver, is that the rally, albeit a real nice one over the last week in the equity markets, may fizzle out. And if that happens, it's likely to take Bitcoin with it.
Okay. So it sounds like then you probably would be looking for more in stocks to be a believer of the strength as well.
Agreed. I would throw out the interest rate, you know, consideration. I would throw out the inflation hedge consideration. And at least for the time being meaning 3 to 6 months here, I would look at this correlated with the equity markets. And you know, I'm not saying it's a beta of 1-to-1. It certainly isn't. But it's correlating more with the equity markets than it is with really anything else out there.
Yeah, sure. Definitely has been. All right, it catches up, but it needs to get a little bit further to impress you. The levels that you mentioned, same ones I was talking about at the top of the show, so we're certainly on the same page there. How about crude and commodities? Because that looks like a more discernible trend that just keeps going.
Absolutely, and you know, quite a move today, especially off of those highs that we saw. It just shows you how at any one time news can come out to impact the marketplace here. But still, when you look at the trend, if you are a trend trader, the trend is absolutely to the upside. In fact, I had some pretty long discussions with some of my students today on some of the energy, some of the commodity stocks like a Devon Energy and Occidental Petroleum, CF industry stocks like those that from a technical standpoint, when you're in such a trend environment like this, you almost want to buy this on any pullback, whether it reaches, you know, some sort of technical level or not. And I don't think that has been broken. I don't think that the move that we saw both higher and lower in crude today, which, you know, made commodities move as well, that certainly hasn't been broken. So I am absolutely a buyer on any dip that we see kind of across the space in many of these stocks here until that trend stops. And, you know, we talk about this all the time. The trend is your friend, and we are certainly in a bullish trend for many, many of these stocks.
The stocks also have been somewhat more stable than the commodity price itself. You know, we've had a few guests that have argued that would be the case. So is there a preferred way to play this trend? I mean, you've got the equities, you've got the commodity, you've got the ETF basket too. Is there a way that you think makes most sense?
So I just, you know, called out, I think, 3 different stocks. Those are
Devon's on the move.
I have traded back and forth for the last probably 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
I believe that it's some of these individual stocks as opposed to an ETF, though I will call out one, UNG. I think on this big drop in natural gas in UNG today, that's one we actually got in. Now, if it was 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, would I ever thought of taking a long position in UNG at 28? No, but again, it's following that pattern. It's following that trend that on any pullback, you want to get long it. So until that trend is broken, I'm in it, but I like it more on the individual stock side in general than I do on the ETF side.
All right. Love that specific example there as the nat gas finally takes a break. The trend is impossible to miss in UNG. Loud and clear. All right. Thanks, Scott. Love it. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.
Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy.